right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And here we go. We are continuing with the series. We were doing it in the bivouac, but then I'm like, you know what? No, we're going to go with Dakar Debrief. So if you guys are listening to this episode, you already know there's a few of those out there. And I am looking forward to bringing more. We still got a few to go. But, you know, we'll get through them. Guys are getting back, you know, finally getting into the groove of things. So hope you guys are enjoying those episodes and looking forward to putting more out there. So, I say so a lot. So, what do you guys think? No. Anyway, all right. Yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so this week's episode, you already read it. You already know who we're going to have on the show today. Talking a little bit about his Dakar Rally and some of the future plans. Get them queued up here. So how's everybody been doing? What have you guys been riding? Dakar's over. What are we doing next? Are we all going to Sonora Rally, you know, Kota Rally, Baja Rally? Are we doing some rally schools? What do we got? You got to be doing something. All right, so let's get this all queued up here, plugging in the phone, letting them know that we are already recording. You know, gonna have them. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I really don't plan the shows out a whole lot. And the main reason behind it is I love the natural feel of it and everybody just talking, and it's, you know, everybody listening in the garage, right? We're all in the garage. We're in the bivouac, you know, whatever. However you guys want to do it. So, here we go. This time around, we have none other than competitor number 127 at the Dakar Rally, Ace Nilson. So let's get the phone call going here. Been a bit. So if you guys remember, we have had him on the show before talking about high desert adventures and what he does on that side of things. Let's see here. Hitting that call button. We'll mute that one and get it going. Looks like he's answered the phone already. But yeah, so you guys, we've had him on the show before. You know a little bit about high desert adventures and what he's done there. Well, this time he's gone all the way across the ocean into the middle of the desert for the Dakar Rally. And so we're going to be talking to him a little bit about his adventures there and what are we going to be doing after. Ace, you there?
Hey, Victor. How's it going?
Good. How are you, sir?
You know what? I'm mending quite nicely. I'm getting around, so it's all good. I'm talking to you. It's all, you know, what more could I ask for on a, what is it? Or a Friday afternoon at 12:30?
I know, right? It's kind of weird being off during the middle of the week. I know you got a whole different schedule with your job and what you do, so this is new to me, though.
No, it's all good. How are you, sir?
Nice. Doing well. I'm looking forward to getting on a bike here soon. Jeez, I feel like I don't even remember if it's first gear down, right?
Yep. Typically. I've got one in the garage that's not that, but that's another story.
Yeah. Nice. So, welcome back stateside. And you've been here a little bit. So tell me a little, let's get right into it. Dakar 2023. What was it like?
Oh, wow. You know, you can do all the research. You can talk to a million people about what it's like, but until you actually get over there and set foot in Saudi Arabia and the bivouac, yeah, I truly, it's difficult to put into words, and it's hard to explain. It's take the largest national race that you've ever been to and multiply it by 50. Like, seriously, the bivouac is a mile long by a mile and a half wide. It's insanely huge. The organization, the facilities, the city that moves from place to place on a daily or every other day or every third day basis. There's multitudes of them, and they all move independently of each other. So to try and wrap your head around how that all happens, and it was just, I was kind of in awe. You know, I belong to NORA, which is a club up in the Northwest, and we put on a couple races a year. We put on a cross country race. We put on a Grand Prix, and we see between 200 and I think the most we've ever had is 375 riders, and that's quite an ordeal to set up a course, to handle the registration, to manage the gate fees, to get people registered, put them in the computer, do all the things that you do. To do that on an international scale and do it in a country that nobody's from, and then move it from one end of the country across the entire country to the other side over a period of 14 days, it's just it was something to be just marveled by. I was just kind of awestruck, if you will, and like I said, the last time we talked, I was really kind of surprised I qualified on my first application. So it was, coming to terms that I deserved to be there, and I earned the spot that I got. But the talent that was there is at another level, So it was good. I just to get there was goal one. Goal two was to finish. And unfortunately, I didn't finish. I had a crash on day 6 or stage 5 that left me with some broken bones. But up to that point, I was having an absolute fantastic time. Everything was working really well. The bike was awesome. The interaction with the team was phenomenal. And the stages that I did get to ride were, hey, you can't make it up. It's like, I was trying to tell somebody what it was like riding in Saudi Arabia, and the desert over there is pretty much unmolested. There's no trails, there's no tracks, there's very few roads even. And so the places that we did ride, it's like if you took the California desert, the Nevada desert, the Utah desert, and the Arizona desert, and you lined them up all together, and you traverse them for the very first time on a motorcycle, that's what it felt like we were riding.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this has been a common theme, is that whatever you think you knew going in is not what it is when you get there. It's very much different terrain, organization, and everything wise. That's absolutely crazy. And I mean, I saw you had a little bit different plan. You were over there early, right? And doing some testing and.
Yeah. And so up until this point, despite a few different attempts to get on a proper rally bike, an RFR, I wasn't able to do so. So I kind of shifted my plan, and I talked with the team manager at Deuce, and Philip. He recommended that I come over to Dubai and do some training ahead of time, just to get my feet wet and get some time on a rally bike, and then also spend some time riding in the sand of the Middle East, because it's different. It's different than going to Glamis. It's different than going to Pahrump or Dumont or Pismo. It's kind of hard. It's more similar to Sonora, but still, it's different. So I went over a couple weeks early, and I spent, I think I did a total of 7 days of training in Dubai in the dunes, and just getting used to the rally bike, getting used to the ETRF, which is a little bit different than the rally comp that we use in the States. And I felt that was really beneficial, because day one on a rally bike in the sand, that's a little bit different. I struggled to make it over some of the dunes initially. So it wasn't until the second and third day that I was feeling more confident and more proficient, navigating the dunes. And so I think that was a good decision, and it kind of finished off my fitness level, too. So I spent some time training over there in addition to riding. So, and that was, I think, a good decision. And I think I would do that again if it ever comes up that this is another opportunity.
Gotcha. Yeah. Just spending some time on the bike, making sure that you're getting used to the terrain. That was something interesting. Like, have you seen dunes that size here stateside?
Yeah, the dunes, I mean, Dubai, the dunes weren't all that big. But going into Saudi, the magnitude of the dunes is probably, I mean, we have some big dunes in Glamis, and then you go to Sonora and they're a little bit bigger there. I would say if you take the tallest, most difficult dune in Sonora and you multiply it by 2.5, you're getting close to what you're going to see in Saudi.
Oh, wow.
and there's not, the thing I found most challenging was there are some that have a very steep entry at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So you'll have a long valley leading up to them, and you're kind of looking at them like, oh crap, where am I going to get a run at this? And you see a few tracks ahead of you. For me, there was a lot of tracks because I was mid-pack or further back. So there was a lot of tracks. And then what I started figuring out was, okay, look at the tracks, and where do they make it over the top, or do you see a lot of tracks that are turning around and coming back down? And so when I started using that strategy, like, okay, don't look where the 1 or 2 or 3 tracks that go straight ahead and then over the top. Look for the majority of the tracks that find a way over the top or around the side. And so I did a lot of playing the more conservative game. I tried initially to try and climb some of the big ones and just didn't make it. You know, when you're using the Michelin Desert Race, which is basically an enduro tire with not a lot of tread, mm-hmm. you have to have a lot of momentum to make it up those big steep dunes. And unless you're like Mason Klein and you weigh $130 and you got tons of horsepower, that's a little bit different. But for us larger guys on pretty much stock bikes, that wasn't the most successful route. So, you know, just kind of learning which ones I could attack, which ones needed a little bit different angle. Some of them, you know, start up this like at a 40 degree or 45 degree angle versus hitting them straight on, proved to have some success. So, you know, it's a little bit of trial and error because there was no practice on that magnitude of dune. It was, here we go.
Yeah, just send it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that because now you're, I think it's one of those things that you see the suspension, how I think it all has to play into game, because from my understanding is that it almost like it was kind of a risk for some people, you know, doing basically lawn darting it into the bottom of these dunes because the face was so steep. But then it's that like, well, I got to hit it. Otherwise, I'm really not going to get up this.
Right. Right. And the issue is you can't tell which ones are going to be hard at the bottom and which ones are going to be soft. And honestly, there was places, just riding when you got into the deeper dunes, like the ones that didn't have valleys between them, but you're just going from dune to dune. Mm-hmm. There were some spots that for no reason, there's no visual cue or anything like that. You're going along 30, 40 miles an hour and the bike just stops. I mean, stops within 10 feet. You know, 40 to 0, 10 feet. And if you don't have good body position or you don't have your elbows locked and out, you're going over the bars. You know, there's a couple times that I just stopped instantly and I'm, you know, doing a flying W handstand, you know, trying not to go over the front of the bike and then, you know, spend a couple minutes digging it out. And there's just no warning.
Yeah. It just comes up on you.
Yeah, and I experienced that training in Dubai too. And I talked to the guy that I was training with, and he's lived there for 20 years. And he said, when you figure it out, let me know, because there's virtually no way to tell. Mm. You know, so he says, you know, there's some that you can tell. There's ripples when a sandstorm comes through or the windstorm comes through, it'll create ripples, and those are typically the harder dune, the ones that are smooth or softer. Mm-hmm. But that's not 100%.
Yeah, that's still not foolproof.
Right.
Ugh. Man, I think just that alone is a challenge. I mean, I could see where it could get tiring, you know, and then especially having to dig the bike out, and it's not a light bike. I mean, compared to what you're used to riding out here. Yeah.
I mean, the riding initially though, the first 3 days, we didn't see a lot of dunes. I mean, it was the first day, really fast flowing track. You saw the pictures, you watched all the Dakar highlights. I've binged watched them now and got to see it from a different perspective, but it was unreal. The tracks were just pristine. There was no, there's no whoops out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like, just beaten in path. Like if you've ridden in Mojave or out in the high desert in California, there's hundreds of trails going every which direction. That's not the case. If there's a road, there's one road. And the majority of the time for us, there was no road. We were just following a cap heading or going through a valley or whatever. And you ride wherever you want, but understand nobody's ridden there before. So if there's, I recall like Sam Sutherland went out on day one, 50 something kilometers in. And I remember riding by his bike. They had it, standing up and protecting the rider. The helicopter was still there. And I was like, holy cow, the winner of last year's Dakar is out. Slow down.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Because I was in full, race mode, sending it. And I recall going by, I think Kyle McCoy caught up to me, and I was riding with him, and we were going through this valley, and there was trees, and there's just perfect, prestigious sand, and we're hauling ass. I mean, we're doing 75, 80 miles an hour across this valley. And I remember passing a rock. It looked like a tombstone sticking out of the ground, and it was out of the ground maybe about 18, 20 inches. But it was the same color as the sand. And I passed it doing 75, and I missed it by a foot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shortly after we passed where Sam was. And I was like, oh my God, that's probably what he hit. And if I hit something like that going 75 miles an hour, my rally is done. And about the same time, Kyle came, I pulled up next to Kyle, and he's like, let's back it down. He's giving me a motion with his hand. Let's slow down. So we rolled it off a little bit and backed it down. But, that was kind of the wake up call very early in the rally. That was stage one. It was like, yeah, this could all be over very quickly if we're not super careful. So, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I'm picturing, as you're saying, I mean, you're literally, it was a decision you made, a few hundred yards ago to drift a little bit over to that one side. And that was the difference between you and that rock. And I mean, and to be 15 miles or 15 days of racing and all that, and to be so early on. So I agree. I mean, I think that was obviously, that's the, from the 50,000 foot view. Yeah. That's the smart choices. Let's back it down. That finish line's a ways away.
Right.
Yeah. So
from that point on, I think, I rode at 70%. And just had the goal of get to the finish each day, get to the finish, and felt really good at the end of each day. I felt like I never had cramps or anything. My nutrition was solid. We had a physio on our team that would just basically check in with us as we got in. He had vitamins, ready for us, like little vitamin shots that were liquid with magnesium and vitamin E and zinc. And, so we got vitamin shots right away. There was food ready for us when we got back to the bivouac. We didn't have to go off and hunt for it. So nutrition was really good. The bike prep was super good. Got really good sleep each night. I really falling asleep in a motorhome with a, warm bed. I was thinking about my brothers over at ARO going, they've got it rough. They've definitely picked the hard way to do this. And, so much respect for their effort, each and every one of them. So yeah, huge props to those guys. But from my perspective, everything was going perfectly. I didn't even have so much as a blister on either of my hands, after 6 days of racing. So nice. Felt really good.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing. I mean, how much time before the rally did you spend dialing in your gear, or did you just take basically what you've ridden in?
Yeah, I didn't change anything up. I've been riding with Climb gear since 2013 or 14. And then in 2019, they actually stepped up and we came to terms on a little bit of a sponsorship deal. With the Dakar Rally as the end goal. So they've been helping me out for a while, and I love their gear. I'm used to it, and it's working absolutely perfect. I didn't use anything but the Mojave gear and glove, and had zero issues. Zero issues with my hand. I didn't tape my hands. I didn't use any protective, like liners or anything like that. So
nice.
And I attribute that more to the bike setup than to the gear.
Okay. Yeah, that it was not. And did you guys, the bike that you got when you got to Saudi and then the bike that you raced, was there a lot of tuning that you did in between?
Yeah, so we did, the majority of tuning was done on a practice bike in Dubai. And then we basically took the suspension off that bike and put it on the RFR in Saudi that was already on the boat. So when we got it off the boat and got it out of, transport, we were able to roll it in and basically just swap the suspension from what I had been training with to take the stock suspension off, put that suspension on. So tuner with TBT suspension here in California. And he actually lives up in Washington, but he's down in California all the time. He helped with the initial setup, Travis, and then he sent me over with springs and valving and stuff like that. We went and saw the factory guys at WP, and they actually did the installation of the springs and valving and stuff. And then I think it was on day 4. We were heading into the dunes and decided to go with a slightly different setup, and they nailed it. It was absolutely perfect. The bike was working absolutely perfect. Didn't matter if I was in rocks or sand or mud. It was, it just did everything I wanted it to.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's obviously one of the bigger deals, right? 15 days, you got to make sure that bike does everything you want. Even if I would even think that even if the bike is a little bit soft, but I guess just comfortable is the big one there.
Yeah, comfortable. And I think soft was the ideal condition for the first 4 days. And then as you progress to the dunes, the recommendation was to go a little bit stiffer in the front, add a little bit more rebound in the front, so the front end rides a little bit taller and doesn't dig into the sand quite so much. And it was working really, really well.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, I think that all the little changes and trying to get that, all contributes to a successful, even every day. It's what it was. I think the average was about 250 to 300 miles a day that you'd be riding. Yeah. So that's, I think every little bit is going to help.
Definitely.
So is there going to be an RFR in your garage soon? Are you going to bring one of those things back?
There will be an RFR. Yeah. The bike that I rode, I did purchase. So it'll actually go to Sonora first, or somewhere in Mexico first, and then it'll make its way to Sonora. My plan is to hopefully ride Sonora if I'm cleared to do so. And and then keep that one here stateside for sure.
There you go. I'm liking that we're starting to see more of these things come over to this side of the pond. It's a shame that you just can't literally walk into KTM, throw a deposit down, and say it'll be here in 6 months.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah. Hopefully. I'd like to see that day come. I don't know what I think it's the homologation rules or statutes or whatever to keep it from. And I don't know if it's EPA stuff or what, but.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be something. Well, it's not going to be Euro 5. So, yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I bet you literally it's probably comes down to two things. There's one thing that just doesn't work, like, the headlight is just so, or the windscreen is just this, or there's no way of adapting some kind of smog related item to it. Or they just flat out like, why would we? It's not a big enough market. Why are we going to pay to have this bike certified, quote unquote, to be able to sell stateside?
That's probably it right there.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, if the rally thing continues to grow, and we'll start to see, okay, like, well, maybe this is, they'll start to see like, damn, if we would have sold all these guys that had RFRs now in the States, their bike, this would have been a pretty good market.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded to it, but so what's next? Are you working towards Sonora Rally, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, definitely working towards Sonora Rally. Last year, we had kind of an abrupt exit with support for the stateside rallies. And Rally Pan Am decided not to provide service, kind of dissolved or whatever happened there. And so kind of, Robert was resurrecting Freedom Rally Racing, Kansas Rally Team. And about the same time, I was talking with my partners here at High Desert Adventures that, hey, this is very similar to providing support that we do on a daily basis for our tours that we do in Central Oregon and Baja. Could we do this for Sonora Rally and help out? There was a request to help out with the Maui Moto class from Darren at Sonora. And we decided ultimately to do it. And Robert Mann from Freedom Rally Racing and myself, we kind of partnered together to put something together. And this was early on when Sonora was supposed to happen in the spring, right? And then it got pushed to the fall. And we didn't have a program for Baja Rally, so I rode under the Baja Rally tent for Freedom Rally Racing, and then for Sonora, we came together and High Desert Adventures took care of the Maui Moto class. I think we had 9 riders, and then we had 3 that were riding supported. And of course, Robert and his team and Mike and everybody did a great job supporting rally, riders for Sonora, and they had a big contingent as well. So this year it looks like it's going to be even bigger, with the WRC Sonora being part of the World Rally stage. Mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of interest. I know, not to speak for Robert or Freedom Rally Racing, but they have a full contingent of riders that they're going to be supporting, 9 or 10 riders. Some of them on RFRs, some of them on typical enduro bike. With rally towers, and it looks like we're going to have something similar. I'm actually teaming with the Dust company rally team that I rode for in Dakar. Mm-hmm. They're going to be coming stateside to do some training this year, and they're bringing, I believe it's 6 RFRs over from Poland and Dubai. They're kind of pulling the resources, and they're going to send them over. And together, we're going to provide support for Sonora and potentially Baja Rally. We don't know if that's the case yet or not for Baja Rally, but definitely for Sonora, we'll have a contingent of riders. So it'll be, at this point, looks like it'll be Conrad Dabrowski, who had to miss out on the Dakar Rally this year. He came down with appendicitis 9 days before the rally, and then actually had surgery and had his appendix removed 7 days before the rally. So he was unfortunately unable to compete. But it'll be Conrad, it'll be Jacob Augerbright, and myself, and then potentially 3 other fly and ride riders. I know that there's interest from a couple people across the pond and interest from a few people here in stateside and up in BC. So we'll see who lands on those bikes, and then we'll have a few enduro bikes with rally towers available as well to rent. And then we're also going to be supporting the Maui Moto class if it comes to fruition. Like and I've talked to Darren, he thinks it's going to be a class again this year. It's just a matter of determining where it's going to live. Is it going to be a part of the national class? Is it going to be Rally 2 or GP, or can a Maui Moto guy compete in all 3 and there be a prize for each of those classes. That's yet to be determined. And I think, Darren's working out the logistics and how that's going to look, kind of making those decisions as he talks to the ASO and their format. So more to come on that.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean, and I can imagine all the moving pieces that it involves and all of the traffic that they're getting now, people wanting to know. And last year, I mean, we saw it, we were there, right? Remember, the bivouacs, certain locations were kind of small, hotel space being limited in certain areas. So, right. That is definitely going to be an interesting production this year. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm happy that we've got around over here. I think that's just cementing the fact that it's growing on this continent further north. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the key will to be getting the press and the TV coverage and stuff. If we can get that on the TV in the States and actually have it, broadcast, that will be, really effective in raising awareness for not only what rally is as a sport and how it works, but just kind of show where we go and the beautiful countries that we race in and the scenery and the terrain and the operation that goes behind it. Just that in itself is intriguing to people. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to, knew nothing about Dakar. They give you the blank stare, kind of the deer in the headlight look when you mention Dakar. And then, how do you not know about this? Okay, but anyway, here's what it is. Yeah. And you go through it. A good example is I flew from California to Portland last night, mm-hmm. And my flight wasn't taken off for 3 or 4 hours. So I was in one of the lounges and I, sitting down talking to a guy and is, what you do and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And he mentioned that he was in Poland and he was then in Dubai. And I said, oh, really? And I told him, basically what I was over there for and what I did. And he's like, I've never heard about this, but I'm intrigued. And so, he's 26, 27 years old, happens to ride motorcycles, but's never heard of rally before. So we, showed him pictures, showed him some videos, and he's like, this is fascinating and I'm interested, so, just a total random stranger at an airport in a lounge with a guy and is like, here's a potential rally customer that's, after a 20-minute conversation is intrigued with the sport and wants to learn more. He's going to go home and research it and do, he's already got the bug. You can just see it in their eyes.
Yeah. Dude, that's, but I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's like soccer, right? I mean, obviously soccer's gained a lot more traction here in the States, but over years and years and years. But it's kind of the same thing. It's more popular in the rest of the world than it is here. But I feel like a lot of people are going to transition or want to transition into something similar to this, right? It's enough racing, but it's also chess. And, it's not about your overall speed. So I feel like there's more just based on that alone. It's like, well, I still want to race, but I don't want to go out there and break myself every time or risk breaking myself every time just to win. When here you're a couple of waypoints away from ruining your day.
Right.
Yeah. So that will be interesting. I think everybody in the rally industry here is now, they're all ambassadors to the sport. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good group of good people, like-minded, just, I've raced in all the different forms. I had a very, very small amount of time in motocross myself. My son raced motocross. I've been around that scene. It's not bad. It's not rally, and I've raced off-road and the off-road community is amazing. Mm-hmm. But it's not rally. It's just the rally community is a step above. They're just, and at least that's been my experience. So I have nothing but good things to say. And I guess that's where my passion is. And that's what I enjoy right now. And so, I'm all in.
Yeah. I hear you. And so are you, I know they're going to do, I think Dan is doing the SoCal rally down here. Do you think you're going to be out at that one or?
So when the schedule came out for High Desert Adventures, and we have to plan our stuff well in advance to do tours in Baja, Mexico, we had set a tour in March. We do a tour in either January or February, but because of Dakar and the timeline of things, we pushed it back. So we pushed it back to March 18th through the 25th, which happens to coincide with Dan's rally. So I will not be at that. And at the same time, we planned a tour for April, and that was the 22nd through the 30th, which is the same time as Sonora Rally. So I will be at Sonora Rally. We will be providing support there, but we also have those tours happening in Baja, and we have people signed up for them, and we have room for more. If there's people that's interested in doing it's actually 8 days of riding in Baja down the peninsula from Ensenada to Cabo, fully supported, all meals included, chase trucks. We have medics that are on the ride. We have Paul Kraus joining us for the April ride. So multi-time Baja 1000 champion, Dakar rider. It'll be some great bench racing after each day of riding and some amazing riding. We ride some of the best trails in Baja, less traveled by other tour groups because they are known to be a little more difficult and a little bit harder to access, and therefore they're a little bit riskier. But they are some of the best in the peninsula. So we have a great time. We not to kind of boast, but we do a really good job of taking care of our riders, our clients, and it's a high-end tour that forever is memorable.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because there's so many trails down there in Baja, and it's like I think it's almost kind of like the equivalent of Excel. Everybody knows certain things, but everybody you meet knows this one specific thing that you don't know how to do, this one particular function. So I feel like Baja's kind of the same. Everybody kind of knows these certain trails, the race courses and all that, but it's the ones that when you're on the race course, that road to the left actually leads back around into this area that a lot of people don't go because, one, they don't know, or two, just would not ever venture away from the beaten path if they didn't have somebody guiding them. Right.
Yeah, I'll have clients ask me, or potential customers ask me, do we get to ride the Baja 1000 race course? And I said, we'll cross over it and we might ride on it for a few miles, and then you'll be wanting to get back to the trails that we do ride. But yes, you will get to see what the Baja 1000 race course is like, and you won't want to ride it for very long.
Yeah.
It's some of the most beat up trail and course on the planet. And for the guys that ride that, I raced the Baja 1000 4 times, 3 times with a 4 or 6-man team, and once with a 2-man team. So I rode the first half of it. Mm-hmm. So I rode 485 miles, and then Dean Self rode the second half. I can tell you, I never want to do that again.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great to accomplish that as a goal, and it's a goal that's it's in the chest, and I don't need to go there again.
Been there, done that. Check the box. We're good.
Yep. We're good.
Yeah. I don't know how to do. I remember one day I had a KTM. It was my first big bike. It was a 625. Oh, yeah. 620 and LC4. And I was like, I'm going to ride on Zoo Road, and I'm going to go from the access road, from one access road to the next, which on Zoo Road, I think it might have been like 5 or 10 miles. It really wasn't that big of a distance, but I was just like, hey, I want to try and ride the race course. Yeah, mistakes were made.
Yeah.
I remember at one point I'm like, okay, this is stupid. There is no way that these guys go through this, on these whips. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go left. And I went like left for like 100 meters, couldn't find a line. And then I went right for 100 meters, and I go, this is useless. I'm just going to skirt my way back. I'm not going to do this. It's insane. And yeah, I could see that where, the fame that the Baja 1000 courses, because of course from the helicopter shots, they always show these epic trails, and some of it is pretty good. But like, on the coast, trying to get in and around the Erendida area and go into Santo Tomas, that all looks really bitchin' in the coastline and all that stuff. But then you've got that one hill coming out of La Calavera. Whether you're going up or down it, it's all beat up. It's all these huge stones. It's all this stuff. And it's just like, yeah, you don't want to do that all day long.
Yeah. Go up and over Borrego a couple of times. That'll cure you from ever wanting to
wanting to do that again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
No, it definitely is. So that's awesome. So, I mean, got tours coming up, got Sonora Rally coming up. I mean, obviously this is going to be a big production. And so you guys are going to do the tour at the same time and then also be at Sonora Rally? Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Keith will take the group down the peninsula. He's got help from, we're partnering with Speed and Sport Adventure on that operation. So Ken Fott will be there. Paul Krause will be leading the group some. And, we have a local guide as well assisting. So, and of course we'll have all the typical chase truck medics, stuff like that. So
Nice.
Yeah, full productions. It's just going to be it'll be a busy couple of weeks, and be a little stressful for me as an owner, having two different operations going on. But yeah, no, we fully enjoy it, and we're passionate about what we do, and we're not going to miss Sonora Rally, so we'll be there.
Yeah, no, it'll be awesome. Get to do some bench racing and talking down there and enjoying it. I think the food and the whole ambiance. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great event.
I want to go back to Dakar for a minute and just talk a little bit, kind of talked right up to where I had my accident on stage 5. And I still don't really know exactly what happened. I got up and went back and looked at the bike, looked at my track, and near as I can figure is the rear end dropped into a rut, and I happened to be skirting around some camel grass. So I was turning left as it did that, and it grabbed me, and near as I can tell, I high-sided, and it just, there's not really a good way to describe it. I call it, I got bitch slapped. And unfortunately, the soft sand I was riding isn't where I landed. I landed on what felt like concrete, and I had a couple skip marks, and then I came to rest on all fours. Mm-hmm. But what I want to talk about is the organization identifying a rider that's crashed and attending to that rider quickly is an experience. It really left an impression on me, and it was a very positive impression. So when I crashed and I had the wind knocked out of me, I could hardly speak. I guesstimate I was there on the ground for a minute, maybe less than that, before the phone on my bike was ringing, and then they connected through on their own and was asking if I was okay. Are you okay? We detected a crash. I'm like, holy shit, they're like already on me. I'm like, great. I need to assess whether or not I can continue. So I'm on my all fours, and I'm like, well, I think I'm okay. I'm going to keep going. I really didn't know if I was or not, but I knew I didn't want my Dakar to end at that point. Mm-hmm. And they're like, we have a helicopter in the air. They're close by. Do you need help? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to keep going. I walked over to my bike, and I picked it up, and I started riding. Mm-hmm. And within 5 minutes, the helicopter had found me, and they were watching me for 3 to 4 minutes. And I was back up I wasn't at full speed. I was probably riding 50%, and everything hurt. And I really didn't know what was wrong. I figured maybe I strained a muscle in my neck, and I had maybe a pinched nerve in my back or something. That was my hope. As somebody that doesn't want their Dakar dream to come to an end, you convince yourself that you're okay. Mm-hmm. And so I kept going. I made it to the gas stop, which was 20K up, and the helicopter had landed there, and the trauma surgeon had got off the helicopter, and he was waiting for me. And so I wrote up, and he says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I think so." And I said, "But I'd like you to check me out. And I don't want to continue if it's not safe for me to do so. I have pain in my back. I have pain in my chest." So somebody took my bike. They went off and actually refueled it for me. And then he sat me down, and he did a complete, once over, and palpated my back, palpated my chest, and, went basically through a full assessment. He says, you've got some injuries. He says, but I don't think it's unsafe for you to continue. He goes, if you have fractures, they're stable. He goes, but I can't tell for sure. He says, I can give you a mild pain sedative. He goes, similar to Toradol is what I figured it out later to be. And it's safe for you to continue. So I geared back up after, and we were in a neutralization section anyway. So I think I had 27 minutes when I pulled into the gas stop. So I took all of that time to kind of regroup, hydrate, ate some food, took the pain meds that he gave me, and I continued on. And I finished the stage. It was like 200K to the finish, and then another 130K liaison. But by the time I got back, I was hurting again, and got off the bike, needed some assistance getting off the bike, and basically got out of my gear, went straight to the medical tent where the same doctor was waiting for me again. He was like, I knew you'd be in. Let's check you out. Let's get you into x-ray. They've got full x-rays on site, took me out the back door of the medical tent into a semi truck that had an x-ray machine in it. Mm-hmm. Ended up passing out twice because of the amount of pain that I was experiencing. That bought me a trip to the trauma center because they couldn't tell. The x-rays were inconclusive, and the trauma surgeon was like, you either have something that's fractured or you have an organ that's torn that's causing all this pain. They jumped in the ambulance with me. Two doctors from the ASO went to the Hale Medical Center with me and stayed there through the night as I was checked out. So, the whole point of this is, the medical care that was on site and available to treat and assist the riders that were there was so impressive. Coming from the medical industry, I just can't speak highly enough about it. It was incredible.
Yeah. And I was going to say that too. You work in the field, so you understand.
Yeah, for sure. I come from a trauma, level 1 trauma center. I see trauma every day. And to watch what they did with a remote, basically pop-up tent hospital that was staffed by some of the best surgeons, intensivists, radiologists, and specialists in the world was phenomenal. To get to talk to these guys and find out where they work. The one trauma surgeon that went with me to the hospital, he's a top trauma surgeon in Paris, France. And he spends his free time, volunteers to come to the Dakar Rally and stay there for how many ever days he was there. And they rotate them in and out. So they've got a full staff that's always on the go. It was just, I was blown away by not only the facility, but the personnel that they had on site. They have physios on site, general physicians. They have osteopaths, which are equivalent to our chiropractors, and massage therapists. You name it, they've got it. And it was readily available. They were very welcoming, accommodating, and it's just super friendly. Just, you walk in there with a problem. Yep, come on over, have a seat. Let's take a look. I only went there once. I had a very specific problem, and it was the end of my rally, unfortunately. But even in the hospital in Hayel, the physician, the Saudi physician, after we got the CT scan back and he looked at the results, he says, "No, I don't see any fractures." And the trauma surgeon that was with me, he goes, "Can you give him permission for me to look at your medical records and go see if you have fractures on the CT scan? Because if you don't, this is a very serious issue, and we're going to be flying somewhere else to get your internal bleeding issues resolved, if that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, absolutely. Yeah, you have permission. He came back in smiling. He's like, thank God you have fractures. I'm like, no, that's bad. He goes, no, that's
what
good.
do you mean?
Like, because I was super excited. I'm like, no fractures? It's a pinched nerve. I'm going to go see the chiropractor. He's going to adjust me. We're going to get this thing fixed, and I'm going to be back on the bike. And this is like, 3:00 in the morning, and I'm still thinking I'm going to, the guys are leaving at like 4 a.m. for this marathon, 900 kilometer stage the next day.
Yeah.
And all I can think about is I got to get geared up. I want to get back on the bike. And he's like, nope, you've got your left clavicle is fractured at your sternum. Your first rib on the right side is fractured at your sternum. And you've got 3 vertebrae in your back that are fractured. He goes, you're done. He goes, I'm not letting you ride. So
wow.
At that point, I was excluded from the rally.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, this was like a conversation that I also had with Mason, but it's like, it's one of those things is like you just never know. And something so basic. I mean, you could have probably fallen a couple dozen times that way anywhere in the world doing any particular, rally and dusted it off. It just happened to be this time,
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, that was probably my second crash. I had like maybe third. I think I had 2 other tip overs in super deep sandy corners going up canyons, and I just lost the front end and tipped over or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that was my first like big crash. And then after that, I crashed like 4 more times just on the way to the gas stop.
Oh, geez.
Because you're not riding and jumping like the first 5 feet of the dune on the other side. You're riding over the top of the dune, and the other side of the dune is super soft. And so it's something totally different from what you've been doing for the past 4 days. Mm-hmm. And then the front end just dives in and over the bars you go. And now you got to climb up this dune that you just tumbled down with, fractured clavicle, whatever, just ton of pain. And then hike up the dune, yank the bike out of the sand, get it turned around, because of course it's upside down and facing the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So
Murphy's Law.
I think I had 3 crashes right like that after the big crash. So yeah, it was just, I was disappointed to be done, but I also knew what was ahead and knew that there was no chance of finishing it out, those kind of injuries. Yeah.
Well, and more than anything is the smart choice. I mean, every one of those crashes that you had after is luck, that it didn't go any further. So yeah, I mean, it's at what point, how much you want to push it, so, but yeah, definitely tough, so many days of racing and to be out on something like that. But,
yeah.
But you get to ride again. We got, events coming and stuff like that. And that was, we had talked about this, post Sonora rally, and just things went everywhere after, but you were privy and ended up at Sonora rally having to do some out in the field, I'm not going to say surgery, but your skills, your particular set of skills came in handy.
Yeah. I think with Matt, and I'm trying to remember who was on scene first, but really he had already stabilized him. I came along and knew that rider was in contention. So I released him to go, and I had medical training. He didn't. But he did all the right things, right? He applied pressure to that wound, and he did all the right things. I had a little bit more extensive medical kit that I carry that has some quick clot in it. I have a suture kit in it, although I elected not to do that. We ended up packing his wound and taping it. And then actually we used his riding gear. We used his pants to use. He had one of the ratchet belt on it, and we just used the ratchet on the belt for his pants to like put pressure on the wound. So that all worked out good.
Nice. Yeah. Another, random one of those things that you never know.
Right.
And I remember, I think we were all standing around the bike later when it came back and trying to figure out exactly what did it. But I mean, it's not an easy thing, to identify exactly what could have I was thinking the road book. Somebody said the bar end. I mean, I think he said the bar end. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's what we settled on was the most likely clause. But yeah, there's 10 things on the front of that bike that any one of them could have hit just the right way. And his was kind of just an oddball injury. It wasn't like a laceration. It wasn't something that cut it. It was something that, applied enough pressure to tear his abdomen and the flesh beneath it. I mean, right down to it's never seen that before, but I could visualize an artery and I could visualize a vein and a nerve. They all run together down in that groin. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy injury for sure.
Yeah.
And very, very lucky that it wasn't something much worse.
Yeah. Yeah. That it could have gone elsewhere or cut what you saw or anything like that. Yeah. And he's cracking jokes, I'm sending him a message and I'm telling him that, yeah, people are on their way. He's like, yeah, cool. Send beer. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh man. The Iron Man stuff, right? So,
yeah.
Nice. Well, cool. So you're still waiting for clearance, making sure everything is healed up before you head out on the bike again.
Yeah, so injury was on, I think, January 6th. So I'm a little over 2 weeks on the healing side of things. Things are not moving around as much as they once were. So bones are starting to mend. I'm starting to be, medical practitioners of any sort are never good patients. So I want to get back to riding and doing things like normal as quickly as possible. I'm already back to work and working full shifts, but trying to abide by the weight limits for lifting and stuff like that, and definitely not riding for at least another, I think, 3 weeks. So, yeah, hopefully get back on the bike soon. And, I miss riding. I miss, that's my therapy. That's I can tell when I start getting grumpy, and Molly will say, go ride. You need to go ride.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. Load up your bike, go ride. And then I come back and I'm all happy and happy-go-lucky and, whatever. It's like, okay, that's better. We reset.
Yeah, wake up in the morning and say, what's that noise? Oh, I started your bike for you.
Yeah.
It's warmed up and ready. Now get out of here.
Yeah. That's the first thing I did when I got home. I walked out in the garage and I started my bikes. I'm like, I don't know why, but
yeah. A little auditory stimulation,
Yeah.
There's something even just about a bike idling, But, nice. Well, awesome. So then I'll see you at Sonora Rally. And if we don't see you sooner.
Absolutely. Looking
Nice.
forward to it. If anybody is interested in support for Sonora, let us know. If you're interested in getting on an RFR, we don't have the price of those packages set yet. It's likely not going to be cheap. The bikes are being flown in from, the Dubai and Poland. So there's some expense involved in that. So, but they are available, and that's something that you can't say about RFRs in the States. So
no, that's correct. I think that that was something that we had talked about previously, or there's been a conversation about that. It's like, okay, well, the Dakar is the Dakar, but thinking about it, right, the ability to rent an RFR and then be able to participate in a rally here in the States, I think for a lot of people that the Dakar, not to downplay anybody's efforts to it or anything, their aspirations, but the Dakar is a beast. I mean, just the monetary side of it is insane.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes. The opportunity to do something similar to that here, is there. It's right here. It's way more obtainable than it is the Dakar. Not only that, but you got to basically apply to it. It's like applying to get into college.
Right. And if you take that mentality with it and say, okay, I can have an experience similar to Dakar. I mean, Sonora is a beautiful country. The organization that puts it on is phenomenal. The riding itself is comparable. And, the stages are longer in Dakar, but I imagine with this being a part of the World Rally circuit that the stages are going to be longer this year than they've ever been before. especially for the GP class, they have to be a certain length. So I imagine you're going to see 300 to 350 kilometer stages. But so to get that experience and not have to travel halfway around the world, what are you willing to pay for that? I would say if you can pay 20% of that or 30% of that, and it costs you $25,000 to do it, that's an investment that should be considered.
Yeah, I mean, especially numbers I'm hearing from Dakar is 100K.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. And
so yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll have some enduro bikes with rally towers. So if you're coming from, BC and you don't want to haul your bike all the way down or ship it or whatever, and you want to ride something similar to what you've been riding up there, or you're coming from the East Coast or whatever, we'll have a package available for you. And if you're coming to do Malimoto, we'll have that option available as well.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I'll get links and the information that I can from you and drop those in the description so people will have somewhere to click on and go find their package.
Yeah.
Get out there.
Awesome. And I guess finally, I just want to say thanks to everybody that stepped up. This rally community got behind each and every rider that was representing the United States. And for me, people that I didn't even know, complete and total strangers to me, bought a t-shirt or sent a donation, or, something showed up in my Venmo account. I had no idea who these people were. But a huge heartfelt thank you, sincere from my heart. Couldn't have done it without the support that I received. Support from my friends and family. Just huge. And, came up a little bit short from crossing the finish line, but it was a dream realized just to get there. So I really appreciate it. You guys, you doing this program, putting this on, you have raised awareness across the globe, and really specifically for everybody in the United States. For, Jacob, I never would have found Dust Rally Team without Jacob extending the invitation to have a conversation with them. To the people that are out there making road books, Gnarly Dave, he put in some hours with me, and they were pretty in the early going. I'm thinking back to like 2019, early on, when I didn't know what I was doing. Like most people, when they enter the rally world, I couldn't tell you 180 degrees from 360 degrees, But with his help and the help of a lot of other people, I feel like I made a pretty good go at it. And, just want to say thanks to all those people that made an effort and stepped up.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. And that's good to hear that, people you don't know. And I mean, it goes to show like exactly what you're saying is the rally family, and how everybody pitches in.
Yeah.
Awesome, sir. All right. Well, yeah, I'll let you get back to it. Got a bike to work on, and you got some mending to do to get back on the bike.
Good, man. Yep. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir. Enjoy.
Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye. All right. So there you have it. That was Ace Nilson, Dakar competitor. That's just in its, talking about, right. The goal is the finish line, but in seeing it, again, from 50,000 feet and then talking to some of the guys, like, seeing the guys from the American Rally Originals and some of the stories and what you have to go through to get there. Just getting there, just getting accepted is already okay, that means I can go to this. And then it becomes like, okay, well, I could go to this and now I got to start it, and then starting it, and then I got to finish it. So I think there's a lot of goals along the way just to get to that spot. So whether or not, where the Dakar is probably the biggest dice roll, because you could go at whatever speed you want to go at, and you can do whatever, even if you want to trail ride the thing. And at the end of the day, you're just so many miles on a dirt bike that anything could happen. So the goal is obviously to finish, but just the fact that you're there, you get to take the start line, take the podium in the introduction, and do all of that stuff. it's almost like achievement unlocked, right? You've made it, you've gotten this far. I mean, that's in my eyes, that's how I see it. So for the guys that did it this year in 2023 and the guys that are going to do it in the future, you know, hats off to taking that step and trying to make it happen. It is a huge undertaking. There is nothing easy about it. I've yet to talk to anybody this year that came back and said, oh yeah, it was easy. It was actually way easier than I thought it was going to be. No, everybody said that everything they did to prepare for it was not enough. So with that being said, it's going to be a challenge, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Challenges doesn't mean impossible right away. So anyway, that's the philosophical side of it. I'll drop one more bit on you guys before we say goodbye. Remember, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride. All right, that is the wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram, Chasing Waypoints _official, and of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.